So while that happens, I want to introduce Sophia, who is our grants manager at Nevada County Arts Council, doing business as Upstate Individual Artists Fellowship. And we are so delighted to welcome you today to join us just to learn a little bit more about two very specific areas of the application. And these have been basically given to us by the California Arts Council. And we, since artist statements and CVs and resumes are one of the abiding questions we get from our arts community, we thought it would be helpful to lead a session on those elements today. And it's small enough a group that I'm sure that there is learning and experience between you that you can share back as well. So Sophia, welcome and thank you for joining us for this, and take it away.
Thank you, everyone. I'm going to pull up my slides. For those of you who were with us on Thursday for the kickoff session, the first few slides are going to be a little bit of a review just because that's helpful context for anyone who maybe wasn't there. So please bear with me while I do that. And then we're going to get into the specifics for today. So welcome, everyone. This is the first of two professional development workshops as part of the Upstate Individual Artists Fellowship application process. My name is Sofia Vivanco-Iraghi, and I am the grants manager for Nevada County Arts Council, joined here by the lovely Eliza and my colleague Gianna as well, who will be offering support during today's session. We are thrilled to be the administering organization for California Arts Council's Individual Artists Fellowship here in the Upstate region, working alongside our peer network of county arts agencies. This program is part of a statewide effort to support the individuals who make up the backbone of our creative economy by recognizing artistic excellence with unrestricted funding rather than project-based funding. So our goal today is to demystify three key components and to give you a competitive edge. We'll be breaking down the difference between an artist statement and a biography, looking at how to structure a tier-appropriate curriculum vitae, or CV, and how to ensure that your materials are panel ready. We'll have a Q&A portion at the end, so please hold your questions until then, or feel free to put them in the chat as we go along, and we'll get to them then. Just a quick note that all of the links shared throughout this presentation are available on our website and on the slides themselves, which you'll get after this session, and we'll also post online at upstateiaf.org. Another heads up is that during certain sections of the slides, I'll be moving fairly quickly. And that's because I built this slide deck more thinking about it as like a standalone resource that you can revisit and really dig into once our session is over. So before we dive into the how, let's talk about the who. Your application will be read by a panel of arts practitioners from across the upstate region. These panelists are often reviewing 40 to 50 applications in a very short window. And so you want to try to make their job as straightforward as possible. I wanted to share a piece of advice that was shared with me when I served as a grant review panelist for California Arts Council in 2018. And this is something that really stuck with me, and I've always carried forward into my own grant writing since. They shared that a strong grant application is like a series of electrical poles that you might see on the street. And so you can clearly identify the main points as well as see the linkages that keep the narrative together, just like the electricity passes through the posts to power our homes. And so hopefully that metaphor worked for you, and you can keep it in mind as we begin today's session, focusing on artist statement and CVs, which are two of the most central parts of the application. Think of it this way. Your artist statement is the soul of your application. It is the why behind what you do, while the CV is the skeleton. It is the evidence and the structure that supports those claims. Next, we're going to review the funding tiers of the program, as this will come into play as you're preparing your application materials. So the Upstate Individual Artists Fellowship has 3 funding tiers: Emerging Artist Fellows, a $5,000 award for those at the beginning stages of sharing work publicly; Established Artist Fellows, a $10,000 award for those with a regular public practice who engage the larger community in their practice; and Legacy Artist Fellows, a $50,000 award for those with a substantial body of work who have made significant social impact over time. This program is unrestricted funding, meaning these funds are an investment in you and your continued growth. California Arts Council has ensured that at least 3 fellows will be selected in each tier, with additional awards depending on application volume and panel scoring. And all awards are made at their full amount rather than partially distributed. Even with this selectivity, we strongly encourage artists and culture bearers to apply because the process itself helps articulate your practice, situate your work within the broader creative ecosystem, and make your contributions visible to regional and statewide cultural leadership. Here we have a snapshot of Individual Artists Fellowship awards made by the California Arts Council in our service region during the program's 2021 and 2023 cycles. Reviewing how many artists were funded in each tier and which counties previous fellows came from can help set expectations about the scale and distribution of awards in a rural multi-county region such as ours. While each cycle differs depending on the applicant pool and panel review, these examples offer a useful point of reference as you consider which tier may be the best fit for your work. So during the 2023 Individual Artists Fellowship, the 19 counties of our upstate region were part of a larger 35-county region encompassing all of Northern California, which was administered by a fabulous organization based in San Francisco called Youth Speaks. For the 2026 cycle, California Arts Council divided that 35-county region into 4 separate standalone regions. So the Bay Area, a capital region, Central Valley and Sierra, and our region, Upstate. We believe that this decision will lead to more geographic equity in the funding landscape overall. I thought it might be useful today to take a look at some of the previous awardees in each of the 3 tiers. I found all of this information on each of the artists' website, and it is research I encourage you to do on your own if you feel so inspired. As we look at the selection of artists, please just bear in mind that while I had every intention to demonstrate adequate geographic representation of Upstate, while also showcasing a variety of artistic disciplines, I was limited by the information I could readily find online. So we're going to breeze through these next slides, which have a lot of information, but I encourage you to sit with it after the session. So first off, we have Megan Broughton, who is an interdisciplinary artist, and she was an awardee in the emerging category. And here, since we have both her bio and her artist statement, I thought a good exercise, if you want to do later, could be to just look at the ways in which she structured one versus the other and what the focus of each text is. So we will talk a little bit more about the differentiation between the two later on. Here you see a selection of items from her CV. If you're interested in seeing the whole thing, it's on her website, and I linked it here on the slide. Next, we have Laura Smith, who is an interdisciplinary artist and an awardee in the emerging category as well. Again, I put her biography and artist statement side by side for comparison. Here we have Brooke Thompson, who's from Humboldt County, and she is an interdisciplinary artist and an awardee in the emerging category. And one thing I wanted to point out is when you see PhD in the first sentence of her bio, your initial reaction might be, wait, Why is someone with that level of education in the emerging category? But I thought Brooke was an example of an applicant who is highly accomplished in her academic career, and yet her artistic practice and the public sharing of her work is in a more nascent stage. And so it reminds us that emerging refers specifically to the timeline of your creative work and not your life as a whole. So now we're in the established category. Here is Ramon Abad. He is a puppet artist. And he didn't have his artist statement on his website, but I included his bio so that you could take a look at the differences in public experience between the emerging and established tiers, for example. This is his CV, or sorry, a selection of items. Again, his full CV is linked on the website. Next, we have Holly Wong. She is a visual artist and was awarded in the Established Artist Fellow category. I put her bio and artist statement side by side, again, for that comparison and looking at the differences in the way she talks about herself and her work. Oh, and this is a continuation of her artist statement. And then a selection of things from her CV. And next, let's move into the legacy category. So the first awardee we're going to take a look at is Mestra Cigarra, and she's a capoeirista and performing artist. She didn't have her artist statement on the website, but again, I included her bio so that you could compare it with someone from emerging versus established versus legacy. Here's another legacy artist awardee. His name is Al Wong. He's a visual artist. And here you can see his CV, parts of it. And then finally, this is Brett Cook. He is an interdisciplinary artist as well and a legacy artist fellow. Again, he only had his bio on his website and not his artist statement, but I thought it would be useful to share anyway, and his CV. So now I wanted to take a look at the review criteria and ranking scale that panelists are going to utilize to evaluate applications. In doing this before writing your application, you will be well aware of what they will be looking for and therefore include those things in your materials. So applications will be evaluated by grant review panelists on the following 3 pillars. Number 1, creative vision, which essentially boils down to effective communication of your story and aspirations. Aesthetic excellence, which is measured using the aesthetic perspectives, attributes of excellence in arts for change framework, which we talked about in detail during the kickoff information session last week, and we'll get a brief glimpse at on the next slide. And finally, community engagement and social impact, which is how your work positively affects your community. At this stage, you might be wondering what panelists are really looking for when they talk about community engagement and social impact. The California Arts Council is not expecting large-scale programs or formal partnerships. What matters most is whether your work is meaningfully connected to people beyond yourself, whether through collaboration, participation, cultural knowledge sharing, mentorship, place-based practice, or relationships with a specific community. Community engagement can take many forms, especially in rural regions like ours. It might happen through informal networks, teaching, small gatherings, intergenerational exchange, or work that responds to a local issue, landscape, or history. Panelists are looking for clarity and authenticity rather than scale. The strongest applications help reviewers understand who the work is for, how those relationships exist already, and why they matter. One of the review criteria, aesthetic excellence, is measured using the aesthetic perspective Attributes of Excellence in Arts for Change framework. The California Arts Council uses the Aesthetic Perspectives framework as a shared language for recognizing artistic merit in work that engages community life, cultural knowledge, and social context. Rather than prescribing a single definition of excellence, the framework identifies qualities such as cultural integrity, risk-taking, and emotional resonance that help reviewers understand how artists and culture bearers create meaningful impact through their practice in ways that are grounded in their own traditions, places, and experiences. It is not intended as a checklist or requirement for social justice content, but rather as a flexible guide that supports equitable evaluation across diverse artistic forms, especially those that may not fit conventional academic or urban-centered standards of aesthetic value. The Aesthetic Perspectives Framework document is a large document, and we absolutely do not expect you to read it in its entirety, so please try and not let it overwhelm you. I recommend the following. Scan the pages that list all 11 attributes found on both page 1 and page 10. Then pick 2 to 3 attributes that resonate with you and your artistic practice and weave them into your narrative responses. This is a way to use the same language that panelists are using to evaluate artistic excellence. If you want to go deeper with a particular attribute, on page 12, you will find quick links that take you to subsequent pages that further describe the attribute and also contain reflection questions, which may be useful for you to consider. Again, when answering the narrative question, we are not expecting you to speak to all 11 attributes of excellence. Rather, a strong response will demonstrate just, say, 1 to 3, showing how your artistic practice effectively utilizes those attributes. Our panelists use a 1 to 10 scoring system based on these 3 review criteria: creative vision, aesthetic excellence, and community engagement. We aren't looking for a perfect artist. We are looking for a clear, authentic vision. A high score isn't just about technical skill. It's about how well you articulate the connection between your work and the community it serves. Now let's move into the how of the evaluation process. The following slides will break down the ranking scale for each of the 3 review criteria. The first review criteria is creative vision. This is where you tell us the who and the what of your practice through your artist statement. It's not about your past accomplishments, but about your philosophy, artistic approach, long-term aspirations, and your dedication to your field. When the panel looks at your creative vision, they are scoring you on how effectively you communicate your personal story and how clearly you articulate where you want your art to go next. Don't be afraid to be specific. Instead of saying you want to grow, tell us exactly what skill you are refining or what new territory you are exploring. Detail is what moves a score from good to exemplary. It's important to understand that aesthetic excellence in this context isn't just about technical skill or traditional beauty. The California Arts Council has asked us to evaluate it through the lens of the Aesthetic Perspectives framework. Reviewers are looking for work that demonstrates alignment with the attributes for excellence, like communal meaning, disruption, cultural integrity, and stickiness. As you prepare your narrative and work samples, I encourage you to look at the list of attributes we saw earlier. Ask yourself, how does my work demonstrate resourcefulness or openness, for example? How does it create a sensory or emotional experience for my community? Highlighting these connections will help you move toward that exemplary ranking. The final pillar is community engagement and social impact. For the upstate region, social impact doesn't mean you have to reach thousands of people. It means showing that your work has a deep, authentic relationship with a specific community or tradition you are part of. Impact is often measured by the depth of the relationship, and what matters most here is the authenticity of your engagement. So now let's dive into the artist statement. Since the application asks for both a artist statement and a biography, I want to clarify the difference between the two. Think of your biography as your professional history. It's written in the third person. So for example, Carol is an artist, ... And you might think of it as the LinkedIn version of your life and artistic practice. It covers your training, your exhibitions, and your foundation. Your artist statement, on the other hand, is the soul of the work. It is written in the first person, so I create work that, or I investigate the relationship between. It isn't about where you went to school, but rather it's about your process, your philosophy, your themes, and your vision for the future. While the biography looks backward to prove your credentials, the artist statement looks forward to invite the reader into your world. Now let's look at the specific prompt. So you have a 300-word maximum to share your creative vision through your artist statement. The panel will score your artist statement using review criteria number 1, creative vision. To get those coveted 9 or 10 points, what we call the exemplary ranking, you need to do 3 things. Connect deeply with the audience through your story, show exceptional proficiency, meaning you know your tools inside and out, and present an inspiring future. We want to see that you are dedicated to growing and making an impact for your field. 300 words go fast, so make every sentence count. For another perspective on artist statements, I wanted to share an artist statement guide, which was written by artist and writer Sarah Hotchkiss for the website The Creative Independent, which is a great resource if you aren't already familiar with it. So she likes to think of your statement like a wedding toast. You don't want to wing it, and you don't want it to be a dry list of facts. You want to invite the audience into the relationship you have with your work. It should serve as a stand-in for you, providing the context that helps a panelist see the work more clearly. So here's Sarah's definition of what an artist statement is and what it is not, which I found quite helpful. I'm going to read the slide. An artist statement is a not too long series of sentences that describe what you make and why you make it. It's a stand-in for you, the artist, talking to someone about your work in a way that adds to their experience of viewing that work. Here are a few things an artist statement is not: a manifesto, an art history lecture, a story about discovering art, short fiction, self-psychoanalysis, a string of adjectives, a grand theory of everything you've ever made, or a list of your career accomplishments. If you're stuck on how to begin writing your artist statement, she suggests trying one of the following methods to help you brainstorm and get the creative juices flowing. So gathering your art in one digital or physical space and really looking at it. Writing out a list of adjectives that describes your work. Recording yourself describing your art to a friend, family member, or fellow artist. Thinking about the emotions and reactions you want your audience to come away with. Writing a casual letter to your best friend about what you've been up to in the studio, or jeopardy your practice. So just a few ideas if you're stuck. And in essence, a strong statement answers 3 things. Number 1, the what, which is your medium and your themes. Number 2, the why, the impact, the message, or the cultural significance. So what drives you? What are you curious about? And then third, the how, your unique process, materials, or research. Do you use traditional dyes? Do you use digital tools? This is the rigor of your practice. So a few tips, just in general, if you're writing an artist statement, not for this application, I would say keep it to 1 page for web or something else. Or in this case, the word limit of the application portal, which is 300 words. I like this quote from Sarah. She says, "Your artist statement should feel like it's written by you, the artist, not by a critical theorist or an art history professor or a dealer or a curator. The people reading it are looking for an enriched experience of your work and proof that you've put some thought into what you're making. They want to hear your voice, not that of some formulaic art jargon robot." And with that in mind, some things to avoid. So using overly academic language that obscures meaning, avoiding using passive voice. So instead of saying my work is inspired by, you can say I investigate or I create. And then also avoiding extreme binaries. So something like, is your work really examining the strangeness of both interior and exterior spaces? Is it both casual and formal? And to close out this section, I want to read out one more quote from Sarah's guide. She says, "As those who exercise say, no pain, no gain. Statements are hard to write, but they're good for you. They can help someone gain a deeper understanding of your art, feel more connected to that art, and ultimately value it. They can make or break an application, and they can help you put words into your practice, giving you language to understand just what you're doing and why it's amazing." So let's talk about the CV. A few kind of different key differences. While a resume is a 1 page summary that you usually, tailor and customize for the specific job that you're applying for, a CV is more of a comprehensive overview or record of your artistic milestones. And so for this application, I would suggest a clean, professional CV that highlights your artistic achievements, such as exhibitions, grants, and press. Please note the page limits, and we put these just because panelists have a lot of applications to review and also work samples and the like, just within your own application. So we know that this won't necessarily be a comprehensive summary of all the things, but you'll need to be selective. So please show us the work that most clearly supports the story that you're telling in your artist statement. So you can use this outline as a starting point. We want to see your education or lived experience, including traditional training or apprenticeship. If you are a culture bearer who perhaps hasn't had a traditional gallery show, for example, you might list your apprenticeships or community ceremonies participated in, or the lineages you've trained in. You will include categories like selected exhibitions, whether those are solo or group exhibitions, grants, collections, publications, and even teaching or professional service, if that's relevant. Depending on your individual strengths as an artist, you may choose to rearrange the order of the categories. For example, you may choose to put publications before awards or honors. As a general rule, you should play to your strengths by placing more important, relevant, and recent information near the beginning of your CV. So just a few things on formatting for success. Clean formatting is your best friends. I would say panelists appreciate some white space to rest the eyes in between lines and such, or categories. Please make sure to standardize your entries. So for example, title of show, then venue, then location, then year, and keep that consistent throughout. When you're doing so, please use reverse chronological order, which means that your most recent work comes first. And finally, a tip is to always save it as a PDF, not just for this application, but in general, rather than, say, uploading a Word doc, because the formatting might shift or be wonky on the reviewer's screen. Think about how you might tailor your CV for the tier you are applying to. So for example, emerging artists should focus on local projects and their potential, and not leave gaps. So you can include volunteering or workshops, things like that. Established artists need to highlight a consistent track record of public work. And finally, legacy artists should emphasize their mentorship and long-term contributions to their field or cultural tradition. Before you're getting ready to hit submit, I encourage you to do an alignment check, just to make sure everything is kind of coherent and in conversation with each other. So does the CV, which is the skeleton, support your artist statement, which is the soul? So for example, if your artist statement talks about your deep commitment to youth muralism, but your CV only shows studio paintings, then there's a disconnect there, and you want to make sure they're in alignment and telling the same story. Just a few quick reminders before we open it up for Q&A. I'm going to show the program timeline slides from the kickoff session. So our next professional development webinar is going to cover work samples and letters of support best practices, and that's going to be Wednesday, April 22nd at 12 p.m. And then this week, we're going to start our office hours. So there's going to be office hours on Thursday, April 16th at 12 p.m. And then next week on, I believe that's a Friday. Yeah, Friday, April 24th at noon. And then the week after, Monday, April 27th at 9 a.m. The panelist applications are due on May 1st. So if you know anyone who's interested in serving as a grant review panelist, that's their deadline. Just a note that if you're applying for the program itself, you can't also apply to be a panelist. So it's an either-or situation. And then the deadline for the Upstate Individual Artists Fellowship application is Wednesday, May 6th at 11:59 p.m. through our application portal, which is hosted by JotForm. And again, we have an abundance of resources available on our website at upstateiaf.org, including FAQs, the ranking scale, which I showed today, the aesthetic perspectives framework, and the full grant guidelines and application questions. And those two, the application questions and grant guidelines, I also have available in Spanish on the website. Yeah, the webinars that I was talking about, office hours and panelist application, you'll get all of this. And then finally, again, another quick recap for anyone who wasn't there on Thursday. The application questions doc has the exact same questions that you have in the portal. And so although JotForm has a feature that saves your in-progress work, out of an abundance of caution, we recommend that you work on your application in either a Google or Word document to avoid any technical glitches or session timeouts that can lead to lost work. And doing so also allows you to use spell check, easily track your word counts, cohesively gather your work samples, and share your drafts with peers or mentors for feedback. And so in order to utilize this template, I've purposely shared it as view only, and that's because I didn't want anyone to accidentally make changes or start putting their own personal information for others to see online. So it's a view-only template. And to use it, if you're going to use it in Google Drive, you'll go to File, Make a Copy, and that will create a copy onto your own Google Drive account. Or if you prefer to use it offline, you would go to File, Download As, and then Word, for example, and that would save a copy of your desktop, which you can then edit. And then once you have everything finalized and ready to go, you would just copy and paste your answers from that document, upload your attachments into our application portal. And I think that's it. Q&A time. I'm going to stop my screen share. Let's see
Don't
what's going on.
understand file download as. What do you mean?
I can show it right now if that's helpful.
Yeah.
Let me do that. It'll
It's not
just take a
clear.
second. Okay. I'm going to go back to screen share. Can you all see that okay?
Yeah.
Okay. So here we are. It might look slightly different because I'm the owner of this document, but essentially this is the document that's linked on the website. And then you go here to File.
Wait a minute. I'm trying to find
Oh
the
yeah, no worries.
application questions.
I'll put it in the chat too, so right now, so people can open and follow along if they
I
want.
also just put it in the
Oh,
chat, Tom.
amazing. You read my mind. So, do you have it open, Tom?
Yeah. No,
Okay,
where do
so
I file?
do you see File in the upper left?
Yeah.
So click on File, and then do you want to download it or do you want to work on it in Google Drive?
I want to download it in Word.
Okay, so then go to Download, hover over Download.
Okay, I see Microsoft Word.
Yep, and so then just click that, and then that'll download it for you.
Well, okay. Enable editing. Save that. Thank you.
Yep. And then I'll just show how to do it on your own Google Drive account. It might look weird because it's my Google Drive account, but it'll look different on yours. So if you want to put it on your own Google Drive account, just go to File and then Make a Copy. And then you would name it like Sophia's application questions, for example. And then it'll save on your own Google Drive. And then I can be like, yes, my name is Sophia. Here, this is my email, for example.
There's some questions in the chat, Sophia.
Yeah. Let me just, I think the first one is from Sonia, is that correct?
Yeah.
Okay. As the window is closing, is it possible to get info for letters of support early? So there's no specific info in terms of like what needs to be included. The thinking behind that session was more like people have come up to me with questions of who should I get to write my letter of support? But it sounds like you, Sonia, already know who you want to write your letter. And so I would just say go ahead and have them start writing your letter. Does that answer your question? Awesome. I'm seeing thumbs up. Let's see what else is in the chat. Okay. Tom's question. Jennifer, do we need to convert to PDF when we paste in the application? Are you talking about the CV?
Are you still there? Just wanted you to know I'm still working on your question, so, yeah, okay. One more one.
I think
Oh.
she means the application question.
Okay, so maybe what I'll do just to have shed some light on the application is I can screen share again and show the application. Does that helpful?
So Jennifer, I can respond to that one, Sophia, because she clarified her question here. So there's one thing is the application questions that we provided to you as a Google Doc that you don't have to go into the portal and, start answering the application and save it for later. So you can just have it on your own Google Doc or Word doc. And then you go into the application portal and then you're going to copy and paste those questions from Google Doc into the answers within the application portal, right? We recommend that you save everything, and then once you have everything defined, all the answers for all the application questions, all your materials, then you go into the portal. As far as your CV, Sophia, do you want to speak to that as far as like files, work samples, what kind of formatting?
Yeah.
And although that is all there, but it might be good to address it here since it got asked.
Yeah, absolutely. And just before I do that, what you're seeing up on the screen, this is the application portal itself. So this is Jotform. And I'm just doing a test here, but it's structured, it's different pages, so you don't get to see all the questions at once. And so that was also the thinking behind that application questions document, was just so you could see everything and know what you need to prepare. And then here, see, there is a save option, and you're totally welcome to use that. I'm just suggesting from, years of grant writing, this has always been my technique, which has been to work on my own document, and then once I have everything ready, go in and input it into the portal. But this is the save document or the save option. So you'd have to either log in or create an account in order to save this amazing work that I've just done, which was not very much at all. But let me stop this share. Or actually, let me share the FAQs while I have this up on the screen. In terms of work samples, you'll find all of the specifications in our grant guidelines. And then also here, there's, like this question that was just asked in the chat about who should write my letter of support. More stuff on letter of support is in here. And here are the work sample specifications, which come directly from the grant guidelines, but I go into a little bit more detail here in terms of, emerging versus established versus legacy, as well as like, for example, I'm an artist who is a singer and musician. Could I submit the following? And here it gives you like a example of what you might submit in terms of your work samples to illustrate the like fullest picture of you and your artistic practice. And this is exactly what we're going to go into even more detail at our professional development session next week, which is all about work samples. But if you want to get a head start, it's all in there in the FAQ doc for you. So hopefully that...
Is that helpful, Jennifer? Does that answer your question? Okay. And I know there's a question now from Tom. Eliza, do you want to answer that? Do you see his question on the chat?
Yes. And Tom, without going into too much back and forth here so that everyone gets a chance to ask a question, and we have more office hours. It's the way you apply your art that we're interested in. So it's great that you have a history of social justice going back to 1972, and with homelessness, we know that's extraordinary, but it's your work as an artist. So the degree to which you have attached your art to that work would be the most critical thing. You're applying for unrestricted funds for yourself as an artist. You're not applying for project work. We don't need an application from artists about specific projects. But we are interested in the degree to which your work as an artist is applied through. Make sense?
Sort of, yeah. Because I've done videos, I've done plays, I've done photography shows. I mainly do writing. I also do music. I'm sort of a drive-by creative. I mean, I do whatever needs to be done. I just sort of, my whole life is creative. And it's like kind of hard to
Wonderful.
focus on what I should do here.
Great. So just focus on that. Focus on that.
I kind of have a similar question because I do so many things, and like, is it better to focus on like one aspect of it and have a running theme, or to try to incorporate all of the many ways that are and tie those together? I suppose it's kind of similar where it's like, yeah,
My sense is, and I do invite others who are thinking of applying for the established or legacy tiers to lean into. You yourselves might be more helpful than myself or Sophia even in answering your question. But I would say, as Sophia suggested earlier, even starting to write your artist statement will help flesh out this for yourself. What is it that what is the soul of my art? Is it that I am actually nimble, that I am like a phoenix that rises again and again according to how I'm responding to my environment, to my community? Does that help you? So we're not asking you to specifically, but I just wanted to, when I saw Tom's email, not his email, sorry, his chat about social justice and homelessness, which is fabulous. Tom, don't let this grant application confuse you with the creative core. It is not that application. It is about your work as a creative, as an artist, whether it's in journalism, as a dramaturg, as whatever it is. So let that lead in your artist statement. Erica, does that help you at all?
yes, it does. Thank you.
It does. Great. And please join the office hours as well, because I think, you might start on that and then come back and we can talk some more.
And then I see Michael's question, which I partially answered in chat format, and I'll answer out loud as well. I would say you're definitely not the first videographer. Like I said, I was just going off of a list that I have and the available information on people's websites. Like a lot of folks had websites that I couldn't find, or websites that didn't have artist statements and CVs, which is what I was after. So for that full list, I encourage you to check it out. It's from both the 2021 and 2023 cycles.
Sophia, can you remember how many applicants Youth Speaks received in the last cycle?
Over 1,000. I forget the specific number, but it was for that 35 county region. They received over 1,000.
Yes.
1350.
1350?
Yeah.
And 48 were selected
Yeah.
because that was the number of awards that they had to give out.
Yeah. So all the regions across California have unbelievably limited funds to re-grant, which means that it's highly competitive. There will be many videographers applying. Michael, you will not be the only one.
Jennifer has a question in the chat. For the aspirations, do you want broad strokes or specifics?
I was just typing. I think in general, the more specific, the better. You can also start like broad and then funnel in, like, this is the broad and this is why. That would be my approach. Da. Tom, I'm seeing your question in the chat about I don't have a personal website. I'm concentrating on the homeless project. Should I create a personal website? I guess my response would be not necessarily, as long as there's somewhere on the website that talks about you as the, creative director and your work. I would just make sure that that's there so that panelists who might not know you and your work have that context.
Yeah, I have an about bio on the website that I can modify slightly.
Yeah.
Because I used to have a personal site, but it got so out of control with all my. I had so much stuff. I just lost control of the site, and I had to shut it down because I was so busy. Couldn't keep it up.
Yeah. Yeah, I would encourage you to just, edit or, if you have bandwidth, add a page or whatever, but as opposed to creating a whole new site.
Yeah, I don't have time. I got to move.
Yeah.
Got to find a place to live. I might first, and I'm busy. I have a board meeting this afternoon. It's just a perfect storm.
You got this, Tom.
You do.
Thank you.
And yeah, we just have a few more minutes. The questions are kind of quieting down, so I don't know if anyone has any last